All units, stop where you are. We have an active shooting in progress. We have an officer down. I need a Leon County EMS unit here immediately. We have an active shooting happening right now. Ryan, back up.
Their lives will forever be changed, but they have the support of a community, and we will stand by them.
So every time I'm struggling, it's nothing compared to what the people we're writing for have done.
Right, shoulder, push.
The last group that's affected that we sometimes don't appreciate is the community that they serve, because it's a tear in the fabric.
Some of the other survivors, we kind of think of it as this is really like nothing compared to the heartache that we had before. So it is hilly, but to us it's kind of like symbolic for our lives, I guess. That sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's easy, but you just keep pedaling and you just persevere, and eventually you get through it.
It's really nice that we can come and celebrate his life, but I'd rather be celebrating with him.
Definitely the survivors keep me coming back. Every year we have some returning survivors and of course new survivors, and the interaction I get with them during the year and when we're up here just keeps reinforcing the reason why this whole organization started.
I just think this is a fantastic event. I plan to ride in it as often as I can in the future.
Usually Sunday's pretty quiet in Urbana.
And he always wanted to be a police officer also. So he did what he wanted to do.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us here on WTXL Sunrise on this Wednesday morning. It's December the 9th, 2015. I'm Kelly Bartoli, and we begin this morning with breaking news. 2 people are dead after an overnight shooting on Tallahassee's east side. This happened at El Patron Bar and Restaurant on Appalachia Parkway. Tallahassee police say someone told the security guards there that a fight was happening inside the bar. Shortly after, gunshots rang out. One person was shot to death, and the shooter then killed in a gunfight with police. 2 others were taken to the hospital in critical condition. Tallahassee police are still investigating. They are asking any witnesses who may have left the scene to call them at 850-891-4200. You can also remain anonymous with any tips or information through Big Bend Crime Stoppers. That number is 850-574-8477. We will, of course, bring you the latest as it becomes available throughout the morning here on Sunrise and anytime on WTXL.TV.
Live from the WTXL studios, this is ABC 27's News at 11.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Paulo Salazar.
And I'm Abby Maurer. Tonight, Virginia TV station WDBJ is still trying to make sense of the murder of their reporter and cameraman on live television.
The shooter, Vester Flanagan, used to be a reporter at the station. He also used to work at NBC 40 in Tallahassee.
WTXL ABC 27's Jade Valexa spoke with one of Flanagan's former co-workers at the Tallahassee station and brings us more.
He describes Vester Flanagan as unsure, insecure, and always on the defensive. And now coming into light are the issues of mental health and guns.
It was shocking, disappointing, sad, and angry. And it was really even more overwhelming because this was someone that I had worked with.
Michael Walker would have never suspected a former colleague of his at WTWC in Tallahassee was capable of killing 2 people. He recalls his personality.
But he seemed to be one of those people that probably needed some help managing his anger and managing how to deal with criticism, constructive criticism. One of my comments about Mr. Flanagan was that he never really took constructive criticism well from anybody.
He worked as the weekend producer at the same time Vester Flanagan was the anchor and reporter. And when it comes to gun ownership, there's a new call to strengthen mental health screenings. One of the victim's fathers speaking out.
These people are crazy and they can get handguns. I'm for the Second Amendment, but there's got to be some common sense.
Walker told me he wishes Flanagan would have got help.
You know, unfortunately for Mr. Flanagan, he either didn't seek that help or no one was able to reach out to him. We'll never know.
Michael Walker says his thoughts and prayers go out to the family of those victims, the station, and the entire news industry. Jade Balexa, WTXL ABC 27, dedicated to you.
And you can find more on this story online at WTXL.tv.
9 days, guys. That's all that stands between us and Florida State's football season opener against Texas State. The guys, they're starting to hone in for that opening game, but football isn't the only sport that's about to get rolling. The beauty of Florida State athletics is that there's a lot of good teams to cheer for. The defending national champion soccer team takes the pitch in their home opener tomorrow. Volleyball kicks off their season tomorrow night, and today at Dick Howser Stadium, athletes, coaches, and fans alike gather to celebrate the beginning of the athletic season at the 10th annual Seminole Uprising Pep Rally and get hyped for a hopefully successful year.
Everyone's so excited about the upcoming football season. I think that's different from how it was a few years ago. I mean, FSU football has truly made a comeback. Everyone's so excited for the first game in 9 days from now. So you can just feel the passion on this campus behind the football team and all of our fall sports.
A lot of excitement in Tallahassee, and there's a lot of excitement in Wakulla County as this weekend the War Eagles face off with Spartanburg, and you can witness all of it right here on ESPN. Yep, Wakulla, one of the few high schools every year to have their game broadcast nationally. It's going to be a good one, too, as Spartanburg, the defending Class 4A Division II South Carolina State champs. They've got a lot of good talent, and head coach Scott Cleese says his guys are ready to play and ready to represent their hometown.
Our home field is always packed. Every home game, our stand, we know for a fact it's going to be packed to the max. The hard work that we put in ever since last year, I mean, it just finally gets to pay off, and we're ready for it.
We're humbled that we have an opportunity to play on national TV. Our kids have a great chance to show what our school and our program's about, and they've worked hard to get to this point. I can only imagine what the stadium's going to be like on Friday or Saturday afternoon, and at this point, I can only imagine what the stadium's going to be like on.
Very cool. That game kicks off at 1 at Wakulla on Saturday, and after not playing last week against Leon thanks to injury, quarterback and LSU commit Felipe Franks is 100% and ready to go. This weekend, 15 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu athletes from South Georgia and North Florida will head to Atlanta to compete in a competition. And while many of them will place, it's the story of Ian Edge that'll really grab your attention. For 28-year-old Ian Edge, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu just makes him feel normal again.
It was something I fell in love with, and I found confidence in myself again. It improved my life in a lot of ways.
For Ian, the path to normalcy wasn't easy.
Full metacarpal. It was actually, you can see here, blown to pieces almost.
While serving in Afghanistan in 2011, Ian stepped on an IED and went through 2 amputations, metacarpal and knee disarticulation.
I thought about just my family and my wife and how one of my biggest fears was just letting my family down. And I knew as long as I kept breathing, I could, make it through. Ian made it physically, but it was mentally where he struggled to survive. Okay, yeah. My cardio is getting better.
Enter Zekro Academy in Tallahassee, where Ian signed up for jiu-jitsu, a sport he'd learned while rehabbing at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center.
I came in originally, I had the pants on, and I was like, hey, I want to try some classes. And, no big deal. And I was like, by the way, I only have one leg.
I saw that guy walking in, and limping one of the legs. First I didn't know
what was about to come.
I wanted jiu-jitsu, so I came here, and as soon as I heard Felipe talk, that heavy Brazilian accent, I was like, okay, I think I'm in the right place.
The right place at the right time.
Who knows where I'd be without it? I'd still be going through the ringer with medications, with the VA. Try this, give it a while. I come here, and I see what I can still do, and that confidence carries me through the day. So it's been literally life-saving.
When I saw him come in, I could see that his prosthetic was pretty high grade, so I knew he had come through the VA system. I asked him, what was the disability percentage you gave you when you got out of the military? And he said, I'm not disabled.
Not disabled, normal, just like everyone else.
Despite any challenges Ian may have, he's learned to work around them, embraced by Nato and the other athletes alike, and all agree they cannot wait to see him compete this weekend. And don't expect Ian to compete in any special division either. He'll be going up against other able-bodied competitors. Pretty cool stuff. Stay with us. More
Science. Meet Picket.up. It picks things up. The Octopirates Club members worked round the clock last year to build this functioning robot, and the hard work paid off. The team took home the silver medal in the international FIRST robotics competition.
You're allowed to hit them as hard as you want with your robot. You just can't take a chainsaw and cut them in pieces. So it's very high intense. The rounds are 2 minutes long, and so the robots are bashing into each other. Some are smoking on fire. It's very, very, very exciting.
Science teacher Jason Burdick formed the club at Sale High School 5 years ago and says last year's second place was the best they'd ever done.
It was so close. It was so exciting. The kids were just jumping up and screaming. We thought we'd won, and then the final results came through, and our hearts were crushed. We were crying. We were just holding each other's arms. It was fantastic. It was a great moment.
Before the Octopirates get to the international competition, students meet every Wednesday after school to research, design, code, and ultimately construct a functioning robot. Students say the hard work pays off.
This is amazing. It's the satisfaction of I made this, I made it work, and through all late hours.
And here's the fruit of my labor now.
Yeah.
Each year, the objective of the robotics competition changes. Last year, whoever stacked the most bins won it all. Let's see if they could teach me how to operate Picket.up.
The controls are set up so that it's sort of like driving a tank.
Sure. I mean, we've all driven our average run-of-the-mill tank before.
Right, yeah.
So we know how that works. All right, there's the box. So what am I going to press here? Uh-oh. Ah, number 2. Oh, there we go. I got it. Let's do it. There it goes. It's pretty good. It wasn't the best.
Pretty good for your first time.
For my first time. Oh, thank you for, coming down to my level. Okay, so maybe I don't have what it takes to be an Octopirate. But for those that do, Jason says seeing the outcome is the best part of his job.
There's no better way I feel than a kid comes back, several years later and said, this robot club set me on a great path, or this gave me so many opportunities. Or when I got to school, I already knew this stuff that they were teaching in my freshman engineering class.
And that'll do it for this week's
Savaris Science.
June 6, 1944, the long-awaited invasion of France took place. The landing of the Allied forces onto the beaches of Normandy had been planned since the U.S. entered the war. It's no surprise troops trained long and hard for the invasion. What many may not know is hundreds of thousands trained here on the Gulf Coast at Camp Gordon Johnston in Carabel.
At Camp Gordon Johnston, they received painstaking instruction in a new technique, amphibious assault.
By the time they left, they were ready for where we sent them.
Camp Gordon Johnston was an amphibious training base during World War II. It was the second largest one in the state of Florida. The post consisted of 165,000 acres, 155,000 of them leased from individuals and from the St. Joe Paper Company.
It consumed most of Franklin County. If you had come during the war, there would have been a gate at the Ochlockonee Bay, the Ochlockonee River, and the Carabel River. And then once you got on the other side of the Carabel River, the land would have been barricaded off. so that you could travel 98, but you couldn't get off onto the camp itself.
Carabel was chosen as a training site for a variety of reasons, including the fact that it had 20 miles of beach area.
And this was the area that they found that had both of these requirements, the beach and all of the back area as well, for the other types of training that these soldiers had to go through.
And the training was tough.
This was used as punishment. If you don't buckle down and do what you're supposed to, we're going to ship you out and send you down to Camp Gordon Johnston, and they'll straighten you out. Because it was, of all of the amphibious training bases, it probably was the most horrendous training.
While the camp trained about 250,000 people, the 28th Division and the 4th Division were trained specifically for D-Day, using both live and dummy ammunition, so it wasn't their first time under live fire.
If you read one of our quotes that's in one of our rooms, he said, had you given us the choice of D-Day or training here, I believe I'd have taken the Germans, because the training here was so bad. But Omar Bradley said that these were probably the best trained troops that we sent overseas, because they had already been exposed to absolutely everything.
Much had been given to the 4th Division in preparation. Now much would be asked.
Men were not the only ones trained at Camp Gordon Johnston. So were female nurses.
Many of the nurses that went in on the D-Day invasion had actually trained at this camp. One of the women that went in on this invasion said that by the time they hit the beach and they went in a landing craft, just like the men did, she said by the time they got to the beach, there were wounded men everywhere. Very brave women to do that, to go in under those conditions.
Shortly after the war, Camp Gordon Johnston closed, but the pictures, artifacts, and memories remain.
I was a rear cockpit gunner in the SBD, the Dauntless Dive Bomber. When we got to Okinawa, the Japanese was underground, all of them. I was tired, sleepy, and hungry, and laid down in the grass and went to sleep. And the Japanese crawled out from under it. I didn't have time to get up, and I drew my legs back and kicked him in the chest. And when I kicked him in the chest, his knife went in my leg.